Jake Paul versus Gervonta Tank Davis is set for November 14th in Atlanta, Georgia. It's going to be, I guess, at the State Farm Arena. Oh my goodness. This is where they're going with it. Look, if Jake Paul would have fought Anthony Joshua, I didn't think he was going to do it. Like, I really did not. And they say that it's still on the table, but look, I'm thinking, why would you put yourself on that suicide mission? Like, what are you doing? Like, Jake Paul hasn't fought a good professional fighter his own size. Why would he fight a former champ who's about 40 pounds heavier and 4 or 5 inches taller with a ton of elite pro experience? Like, that made no sense. Like, it was intriguing. I'm like, damn, is he? To me, I almost saw Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua as, you know, that TV show Jackass, where they just get demolished doing different crazy things. I looked at that as that. But Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis, ew. Like, I'm just having flashes of Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul, even though, I mean, the context is different here. Jake Paul's a much better boxer than Logan Paul. Floyd Mayweather was in like his mid 40s. Gervonta Davis is in the physical prime of his career. And I know that there have been questions on whether Gervonta Davis is still serious about his career. I mean, he's openly expressed that he's tired of the boxing game and he's looking to retire sooner rather than later. He's been saying that. But like, when's the last time you've been excited about a Gervonta Davis matchup? Like, on paper, not what happened in the actual fight. I know Lamont Roach overperformed, right? He overachieved. We didn't think that Lamont Roach would beat Tank Davis or fight to a draw with Tank Davis. But when's the last time you've heard a Gervonta Davis announcement and been excited about it? Look, I'll give him the Ryan Garcia one. The intrigue was there. The rivalry was there. Ryan Garcia, I mean, say what you want about his career. It has been, I mean, it's been all kinds of things, right? It's been a lot of twists and turns, but Ryan Garcia has stopped Oscar Duarte, did stop Luke Campbell. Like, at the time, we were like, Gervonta Davis should win this, but I got to see it, you know? So there was a ton of intrigue. I mean, you could look at the pay-per-view numbers and see that we were excited about Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia. I'll give him that. But outside of that, like, look, Leo Santa Cruz, Isaac Cruz, Raleigh Romero, all of these matchups, Mario Barrios, they were all like, oh, like, okay, I guess I could get up for it, but nothing was really exciting about any of those matchups. Frank Martin, that was kind of a cool one. And yeah, our opinion of Frank Martin has changed after seeing him flat on the ground against Tank Davis. Tank Davis does that against a lot of his opponents. But matchups wise, you'd have to go all the way back to, it wasn't Liam Walsh, maybe Pedraza. That's often the one that people like bring up is, hey, but that was a credible champ and a credible title win for Tank Davis. Okay, so there's that one several years ago. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because he has always been a pound for pound talent, right? Gervonta Davis, the way that things are going, is going to be like the most famous non-Hall of Famer in boxing history, the most talented non-Hall of Famer that we have seen in a long, long time. And I mean, look, is he a Hall of Famer? Do you think that he's got a Hall of Fame resume? I don't. Look, I like Gervonta Davis. The reason I'm bringing this all up is because it's been so frustrating seeing somebody as talented. And I look at Gervonta Davis as being brilliantly talented. To see somebody this good just waste away his prime years. Yes, making a ton of money. I'll give him that. And if the object of the game, competitively and business-wise, has been to minimize risk and to make as much money as possible, they pull that off with flying colors. Him, Leonard Ellerby, the people running his career, they've done that. But my God, from a competitive standpoint, you mean to tell me that you went through your whole 20s and now you're into your 30s and you're having the Jake Paul cash grab before you even fight Shakur Stevenson? You never fought Vasily Lomachenko. I know that you were trying to make that right at the end of Lomachenko's career, but yo, y'all had years to get that one done. This has just been so uninspiring, and it's just one of those careers where it's not like he was Demetrius Andrade, where he wasn't holding the cards and couldn't do anything about these other guys not wanting to fight him. No, you're Tank Davis. You're holding the cards. You're already the pay-per-view star. and you're still not getting any of these fights done. No Devin Haney, no Teofimo Lopez, none of that. We haven't gotten any of that from Gervonta Davis throughout his career. And again, he's in his early 30s now, and it's not like he wants to stick around and have all of these meaningful fights apparently in his early to mid 30s. So is this really what has become of Gervonta Davis's career? As a fan, I'm just like, I'm a little bit disgusted that it's been this long. And you look at he's got some pretty good wins. Like Isaac Cruz is a good win. The Mario Barrios win up at 140 at the time was a pretty good win. He's got Ryan Garcia, a good stoppage win. Frank Martin, that's a good quality win. Look, if this was most other fighters and you had these wins, they would be applauded. It'd be like, damn, you stopped this guy and you stopped the old Santa Cruz up a division from where he's been at his best, or up a couple divisions from where he was at his best, but up a division from where he fought Carl Frampton. Like Gervonta Davis has a few good wins and he's got some names. He's got some names on his resume. Hell, when I went to see him fight, it was against Hugo Ruiz, and it's because Hugo Ruiz was a late replacement for what was supposed to be Abner Mares. So that would have been another name for Gervonta Davis, Abner Mares. So look, they navigated his career very smartly in terms of building up his name and his reputation. But man, along the way, like, you couldn't give us fights that we actually wanted to see. Look, Floyd Mayweather and all these other, Canelo Alvarez, they had these cruise control parts of their career later on, after they had proven themselves at their lower divisions, fighting better fighters, fight over fight. They had the runs in their career where they were fighting serious opponents at serious times. Gervonta Davis, for damn near his whole career, has been like sidestepping all of the meaningful fights to fight this name, that name, and then dressing it up to make it look exciting and meaningful. Like you could fool some, but this has been very disappointing to see. And now he's going to be fighting Jake Paul, of all people. Look, I'm not saying that there isn't any fascination or some curiosity in this matchup. Yeah, sure, you got a 6'1", 200 pounder fighting a 5'5.5", 135 pounder. Yeah, there is something interesting about that, but it is the circus fight of circus fights. And aside from the cash grabs, like, what does it do for either guy? I guess it depends on what the outcome's going to be. Like, if Gervonta Davis knocks Jake Paul out, sure, that's a pretty impressive thing to do. Like, say what you want about Jake Paul. A few years ago, none of y'all saw this coming. None of you guys saw Jake Paul beating an old Anderson Silva. Like, when Jake Paul fought Ben Askren, people were like, well, he ain't gonna fight Anderson Silva. He's not gonna do that to Anderson Silva. At the time that he knocked out Ben Askren, we didn't even think he could do that to Tyron Woodley. Maybe some of you did, but we didn't know how serious Jake Paul was about this boxing stuff. He's at least shown us that he's damn serious about it. Even when he knocked those two lesser professional boxers out, Andre August and Ryan Borland, those were like nice first round knockouts. And he does have the loss to Tommy Fury, which he hasn't avenged yet, but he also stopped UFC fighter Mike Perry. He dropped Nate Diaz a couple times and beat him pretty easily by decision. He had the major cash grab in one of the most cringe circus fights that you can imagine against a 50-something-year-old Mike Tyson. A lot of people thought that Tyson had a shot in that one. I'm just thinking, like, what were you thinking? Like, some online boxing analysts that I respect were saying, oh no, Mike Tyson's probably gonna win this, or has a really good shot at winning this. I'm like, if Mike Tyson doesn't knock him out in the first 30 seconds of this thing, he's got no shot at winning this. And he really didn't. I'm thinking, how can you guys get fooled by these 5 to 10 second clips? It gets them every time. And anybody who's had serious workouts knows what it means to have endurance. You know what I mean? It's not the first 10 seconds. Anybody could look like an animal in the first 10 to 15 seconds of a workout. But yeah, Jake Paul gave us that. And in arguably his most impressive win, he dominated Chavez Jr., who's now in a Mexican prison after ICE took him in and deported him. He's in prison right now. Like, that's a whole story unto itself. But Jake Paul beat a former middleweight champ, a legitimate former middleweight champ who's long past his prime, and several divisions above his prime. So there's always been a caveat, a catch. And now I mean, there's nothing but caveats and catches in this Jake Paul versus Tank Davis matchup. Like, are they actually going to fight? We don't know how many rounds it's going to go or how many rounds it's scheduled for. We don't know what the catch weight. We don't know what weight Jake Paul's going to have to weigh in at to make this thing happen. Like, I'm assuming that Jake Paul can't come in at 225, you know what I mean? And Jake Paul's been anywhere between 190-ish and 205-ish, 210-ish. But yeah, we don't know these things. And I really don't know how much these things matter in this type of an exhibition. Like, is this going to be an 8-rounder, a 6-rounder, a 3-rounder? We don't know. So this isn't going to be an official boxing fight on either of their records, but they are going to have gloves on and they're going to be fighting each other in a ring. Now that I've gotten out of the way how I feel about this fight, I think it's a waste of time for Gervonta Davis. Like, I know he's getting a ton of money, but damn, I wanted him to run it back with Lamont Roach, to be honest with you. And now they're scrapping that one, or at least for the time being, it doesn't look like that one's coming together, which, I mean, it sucks for Lamont Roach, right? I saw Shakur Stevenson kind of raise his hand, said, I'll fight him. And I think Gary Russell Jr., who's one fight into a comeback, you know, it sounded like they might get that one together. I just want to see Lamont Roach in a meaningful fight for a good amount of money sometime really soon. I think he's earned that much, but it's not going to be against Tank Davis now, which is disappointing. And now we know why. It's not because Gervonta Davis had that altercation where he got caught up in another domestic abuse allegation. Like, he's got problematic issues without question on a personal level. We all know that about Tank Davis. And now he's going to be fighting Jake Paul. This is, I feel like this might be like a wink and a nod, and I don't know if they're going to take this like seriously. If they do take it seriously, like, Gervonta Davis might get hurt in this fight. Like, he's fighting a 200-pounder. I know he's going to be the slicker of the two. He's the better boxer of the two, but I mean, this is going to be again, 135-pounder against a 200-pounder. And again, this isn't Logan Paul, who hasn't ever shown me that he could fight, you know, when he lost a close fight against KSI. This is early in the whole circus fight thing. Or years later when he fought Floyd Mayweather. He's a physical, you know, he's an athlete, Logan Paul is, but he doesn't put his punches together like Jake Paul does. Jake Paul looks like he has clearly been, over the last several years between those brothers, Jake Paul's been the one who's been serious about boxing. And you could tell that early from the time he knocked out Anderson Gibb, which, I mean, in hindsight, maybe we should look at Anderson Gibb a little bit differently. At first, it looked like one bozo fighting another bozo. Neither of them could fight. That's what we thought going into that one. But knowing what we now know about Jake Paul, I feel like we should forgive Anderson Gibb for getting smoked in the way that he got smoked. Same goes for Nate Robinson, who, I mean, I thought Nate Robinson might give Jake Paul problems because only one of these guys is a professional athlete between the two. And again, we didn't know what we didn't know about how serious Jake Paul is about boxing. So Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis, it's not what any of us wanted. There is some intrigue in the little, you know, superstar fighting the big, you know, promotional marketing superstar who, I mean, people were talking like he was on his path to challenging Badu Jack for a title. I know people like Chris Mannix thought that he was going to fight Zordo Ramirez if he got past Chavez Jr. And I'm like, Jake Paul's not going to go anywhere near Zordo Ramirez or Jai Opataya. That's how I see it. If he does, hats off to him. I don't think that's coming together. I was thinking he might fight the 40-something-year-old Badu Jack, who's, you know, he's holding a title right now. I wonder if Badu Jack is going to run it back against the opponent that he barely beat, you know, controversially, you could argue, beat in a could go either way fight. Maybe he should have won that, because, you know, if it could have gone either way, maybe the title holder should retain his title in that case. But if there was a cruiserweight champ for Jake Paul to try to fight, it would probably be Badu Jack. And I don't think he beats Badu Jack. I want to be clear about that as well. But it would be a respectable, very respectable opponent. Like, look, I don't think Jake Paul could beat any top 10 cruiserweight. I don't think he could beat Dorticos, who just lost to Zordo Ramirez. I don't think Jake Paul could beat any of these guys. I don't think he could beat Chris Billum Smith. I don't think he could beat Richard Riakporhe. I don't think he could beat any of them. But he's going to be fighting Gervonta Davis in an exhibition. And yes, there is intrigue. Let me know how you think it's going to go. Are they going to fight each other hard? Is someone going to get popped with something serious? Because look, if Gervonta Davis gets drilled with a Jake Paul right hand, I think Gervonta Davis could get hurt. I don't think Gervonta Davis could badly hurt Jake Paul unless he hit him with like multiple combinations super cleanly and over time maybe. But Jake Paul's a big boy, you know what I mean? He is. And his neck, his shoulders, they can absorb more than your average 135 pounder. So I think Jake Paul can hurt Gervonta Davis. I don't think Gervonta Davis with one or a few shots can badly hurt Jake Paul. Is Gervonta Davis going to be able to, at 5'5.5", outbox the 6'1" Jake Paul, who has been working on his jab? He dominated Chavez Jr. largely with the jab. So again, I'm not saying there is zero intrigue. There is a curiosity to it. It's just not the fight that I wanted at all. Let me know your thoughts on this one, what your earliest thoughts are in the comments. I'll look at it a little bit closer and give you what I could see playing out. My gut feeling tells me that they mess around at range and nobody gets badly hurt, and that it's a 6-rounder that have some, maybe a few decent connections. I don't think Gervonta Davis is going to get hit with the worst of Jake Paul's right hands. I don't think that Gervonta Davis is going to be tagging Jake Paul with several combinations. I don't expect a ton from this one. I think it might be a nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Let's move around and throw some punches for a few rounds and try to do something that has some semblance of entertaining the crowd. But I could see this one falling flat. Look, if they go at it and these guys go to war, then okay, I'm here for it. I don't want it, but since it's scheduled, okay, there's some intrigue. But again, there are 20 fighters I would rather Tank Davis fight than Jake Paul. I want to be clear about that. And I don't think this does anything for his career, but it's not meant to do anything for his career. I don't know how much Gervonta Davis cares about his in-ring legacy. His fight-by-fight schedule kind of tells me that. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.